Before we get into today's episode, I just want to give a quick shout out to Straight Chat. And this is our community for vacation rental pros who want to explore how AI can make running their business a whole lot easier. If you're curious about using AI to save time, to boost efficiency, or just to work a little smarter, head on over to vacationrentalformula.com/AI to learn more and to join the conversation. You'll find chat, networking tools, prompts, and courses to help you get to grips with the AI world. All right then, let's get on with the show. This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information, and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Well, hello and welcome back to the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and as always, I'm delighted that you have decided to be with me today. It's the middle of the busy summer season, and I remember it well. And if you're a property manager, you've probably seen it all by now. You know, guests, I remember the things like guests leaving the screen doors open, not only letting the bugs in, but letting the squirrels, the raccoons, and the bears in. Then barbecues being set on fire. Maybe even someone deciding it's a really good idea to hang off a balcony for a selfie. It's a really wild time in the world of short-term rentals, and that makes it the perfect time to talk about safety. So joining me today is someone who truly needs no introduction if you've been around this industry for any length of time. And that is, of course, Justin Ford, the vacation rental industry's leading expert on safety, and someone who has dedicated his career to making short-term rentals safer for both guests and owners. In this conversation, we dig into some of the safety issues we're seeing this summer, the growing awareness around safety in the short-term rental space, and why it's not just about smoke detectors and pool fences anymore. We talk about vacation brain, some laugh-worthy but serious guest behaviour, and how even something as simple as hanging a picture the wrong way can create an unexpected risk. Justin also shares his take on the Short-Term Rental Wealth Conference that just wrapped up in Nashville, and whether new hosts are really stepping up on safety. We get into guest training. Can we really train our guests? And whether any of us can truly become a safety expert, or at least make a good start at it. He also shares how some of the leading people in this industry are leaning into safety first as the way forward. This is a must listen if you care about your guests, if you care about your business, and your peace of mind. So grab your cup of coffee or tea, as I have, and let us keep you company while you drive or stride out on the trails. This is a good one, trust me. I am super excited to have back with me once again, the ever-travelling Justin Ford. Justin, it's an absolute pleasure to catch you between trips. I know you had some issues coming back from Nashville. Can't wait to hear your airport stories. And you're heading off to Scotland. So thank you very much for coming along and sitting down with me for an hour on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I could talk safety forever and ever and ever and ever. I can talk about the industry. I love this industry.
I know. And this is why I'm still here 3 years after selling a business. Can't get away from it. Tell me about the airport scenario, because that made me laugh so much.
I think that a lot of operators are dealing with this too. This has got to be one of the worst summers of travel that we've seen in quite a long time. The thunderstorms that just keep rolling across the U.S., up where I'm based out of in the Northeast. We haven't seen a lot of those, but on the other hand, the big hubs, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, even out in the West and the wildfires. So it's been really hard to move about and predict moving about. And I got wrapped up in that myself, between mechanical issues with airplanes and storms in Boston. It took me over 24 hours for what's been a routine 2.5 hour flight from Nashville to home to Maine to finally get home. It was planes, trains, and automobiles.
Oh, it all adds to the fabric of life, doesn't it? And you're off again tomorrow?
I'm off again tomorrow. I'm hoping international goes a little bit better, although I'm flying into the same airport that our president is at right now. There's a lot of protests going on, so we'll see what happens.
I was going to ask you if you're heading to Turnberry.
Yeah, I'm not heading to Turnberry, but he's in Edinburgh, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we just had our Prime Minister and all the premiers meeting in our little town of Huntsville last week.
Yes.
And we didn't want to be out on the roads at all during that time. It's a quiet little town in the winter, crazy busy in the summer, and just made a little bit more busy with a lot of protesters. Although I don't know why anybody's protesting our government right now.
Yeah, it's the summer. Go to the beach, go fishing. We can protest in the fall. I don't know. It's been a hot summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Hot summer. And that's what we're going to talk about because we're midsummer-ish. And it just struck me the other day. And I was thinking 3 years ago, I was still in the business. We'd sold it. We closed on May the 31st. And I still had, it was meant to be 3 months of staying in the business. And I managed halfway through the summer when I said, I think you guys can go it alone now. But it just made me think about that midsummer time when people are going nuts. You've got guests with vacation brain. You've got cleaners that are burning out and things get forgotten. Safety does seem to be one of the things that just get pushed aside when everything is going nuts in the summer. But so here we are, midsummer. Do you feel that the message around safety that you're taking wherever you go, regardless of the season, is resonating more broadly across the industry, or are we just still preaching to the converted?
I would argue that it is. We're at record enrollments right now for the Breezeway safety course, which has just been absolutely incredible. And we're getting ready to take it actually to the next level. We're doing a lot of work in the background right now that's going to make that course even more accessible and more part of our Breezeway community this fall. So that's been a lot of fun. And a lot of the leaders are really stepping up, and they're big leaders. Steve Schwab with Casago Vacasa, he's invited me to be one of the keynote speakers at CasaCon this fall, and he's got some big surprises related to safety. They've put Jackie on their team in charge of safety down there. We've been doing a lot of webinars with them. So when you've got the biggest operator in the industry right now that's putting safety at the forefront, that's spreading out. Another fun one is I just actually took a boat ride. He was visiting me up in Maine, and he and I connected together. Jamie Lane from AirDNA. We had a lot of fun digging into some data, Heather. Data that a lot of your listeners might not know that's out there. But AirDNA can actually scrub and look at guest reviews, which everybody knew. But did you know that they can highlight guest complaints about safety? We actually know by ranking of guest complaints about safety issues who the worst operators are in the industry. And that's not a list people want to see published.
I can imagine that. Yes, and I know that most everybody now can scrape reviews and tell AI to pull out keywords that are appearing in reviews. So I would imagine that the AirDNA is right on top of that and can do that. But that would be interesting. I'm reaching out to Jamie, in fact, this week. Every time I see him at a conference, I say, you've got to come on the podcast. He has never been on his podcast.
Maybe he'll tell you. I'm not bold and brave enough to tell you who's on that list, but wow, there's some familiar names. It's not good.
This is where people need to be. They know that they're on that list, I'm quite sure, because they're seeing this if they read their reviews.
Yeah, hopefully they're reading their reviews. And that's what makes you wonder, why are they doing that? And I ran into Nick Massey recently from Proper Insurance. He was actually at the STR Wealth Conference with me. The number of claims that they're getting in this summer for safety-related incidents, there's a lot of them. I'm not necessarily echoing them right now, but we've had a lot of pool drownings, which is not good. There's been a lot of fires, a lot of different incidents. Nothing has stopped when it comes to safety this summer. Incidents are still happening, but circling back, there's definitely been an increase in the number of people who are starting to say, you know what, we got to put this out in front.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad of that. When you said to me, there's a lot of leaders out there doing this, and I thought, yes, you start talking about the people that are really getting out there and putting safety first. maybe that will jog some of the others to realize that this has got to be out front.
Yes, it has to be. And there's just some people that everyone admires in this industry have taken that, putting safety first. Near Maimon with the Naimon Group, Robin Craig with Moving Mountains. I'm going back out there every September. They bring me in for safety training with their team. It's safety month. Imagine that one of the top operators in our industry continues to do a safety month at their company, at all their offices, all their markets, all their new employees every single year. That's how important that is. And Nick from OSA Properties, and safety's in the forefront for him and what they're doing down in Costa Rica. And they're a leader in that. And they're getting more bookings and more owners. Mm-hmm. That's been the cool thing. A lot of these leaders are telling me, hey, Justin, we're getting a lot of owners from this. Owner acquisition is up. And Brooke Fouts said to me, dude, we're seeing a lot of people who are Breezeway safety certified that are climbing that ladder.
We talked about this years ago, that we were using it in our company as a feature.
Yes.
And maybe we were out there pretty early on. And we were saying, when we talked to owners, and we said, safety is top of our priority list. And that got us new owners.
That story of you sharing that so many years ago is one that I share often. And I honestly think it catches on. I think you deserve a lot of credit for what you did do with that, what you saw with that. Now, I'm going to clarify here. I believe at this point, I've been in the industry since 1997. So I think I'm an OG. I know that you're an OG. Us OGs have been talking about this for a while.
For me, it started out when... before I even got into the industry in Canada, when we went to our very first vacation rental in Ontario. And it was a place that my brother booked for us for a wedding. It was my origin story. And this place was, you would have had a field day there. But I remember that was the start of my journey in this industry, when I said I could do this and I could do it better. And I really knew nothing about safety, apart from the fact that I was there with small kids. And all my time was spent worrying about how they were going to damage themselves.
Right.
It wasn't a management company. It was simply the owner. My brother had found a friend who had a cottage who would rent to him. I don't think it would ever have made it into any property management portfolio, but it certainly started me off on that footing that whenever I went to see a property, I'd walk in the door and look at the paving slabs round the door and then look at rugs. And I think it became part of my acquisition DNA, if you like.
That's absolutely true. You think about properties that have had issues, and you and I look at these things and see them. I'm not going to specifically say when this happened, because people who follow me could quickly look back and see where I was. But within the past year, which is a lot of places I've been, I went to see a property and there was a massive failure about to happen there. And I warned the operator, it's a big operator in our industry, that this needs to be addressed. They didn't address it. And a few weeks ago, I started getting all these messages from people. Look, at this thing is really bad. And I get that all the time. So I'm not always looking at them, but this one caught my eye and I'm like, I've been to that property. And then I realized it was that same property and that operator hadn't fixed what I recommended. There's over 1.2 million views right now on that of one of his guests who turned out to be a top contractor in the United States. It's having a massive effect on their business. You just don't know who's going to come stay at your property, and nothing prevents them now from getting on social media and speaking out and going, hey, this Airbnb I'm staying out, this is not safe. And the gang wagon jumps on board and suddenly it's gone global. If there's no other reason, then you've got to do something and make sure that you're addressing safety. There's one right there.
Well, you've been, as you just said, traveling a lot. You speak a lot at conferences. You've just come back from Short-Term Rental Wealth Conference in Nashville.
Yeah.
What was the vibe like there when you were talking about safety? Are the newer hosts and managers talking or showing more interest in safety than they used to?
Yeah, they are. Parts of it have happening out of an interesting spin that's happened. And one thing that's not talked a lot about lately is what's happening in Sevier County down in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. And in that market, they've put some pretty aggressive safety requirements. And in fact, I always like to think I've set the bar. They went over the bar. I saw some things that they're doing, like a grill 30 feet from the house. I'm like, holy smokes, code's only 10. They want it 30. So they've gone a little far on some occupancy. And as a result, a lot of those top real estate investors and real estate brokers in that market have gotten the notice that, hey, wow, some of these properties we're having to sell because they can't meet. And so a lot of those folks were at this conference. And so that's got them paying attention that safety can dramatically come in and have an effect on their real estate investment. And I would argue that more so than ever, these new investors that are coming into the industry at a conference like STR Wealth were well paying attention. I was a busy guy. It was a 4-day conference. I'm not picking on our marketing team at Breezeway, but we actually could have used another person and we were busy. It was a busy time and a lot of them are thinking about safety.
So you're at the Breezeway booth.
Yep.
Are they coming to talk to you about safety as well as other because Breezeway has a lot of other offerings in terms of operations and scheduling and just the super stuff that is out there that we were using in our company before we left. But now are you front and center on that safety pedestal?
Yeah, obviously safety is just a very small part of what Breezeway does, but we believe that safety is at the core of professionalism in the industry. And that's why my boss, Jeremy Gall, the founder of Breezeway, brought me on 6 years ago, was because we think professionalization and leadership in this industry starts with a focus on safety. But one of the things that I've been able to do, not only obviously is getting the international recognition with winning the Pioneer Award of Shortyz a few months ago, that really put safety out in the forefront. That got people's attention. But I'm very active, as you've probably seen, in Facebook groups. I definitely was very humbled by the number of people that came up that wanted to share stories with me, that they've seen me commenting or talking about safety on Facebook for years and wanted a picture with me, wanted to talk to me, wanted to show me that they've done things that they've told that I've shared. And that was just amazing for me. I'm 6'5", but I felt like I was 7 feet at times. Coming up going, and this is where we mounted our fire extinguisher. And my husband did this, and he wants me to make sure that he listens to you. And there was people with bracelets that said, "What would Justin do?" So it was pretty humbling. I was blown away by how many people are getting it.
Oh gosh, in my own family, Justin, the "what would Justin do" is a catchphrase, and that's outside of me and Mike, my sister, my brother-in-law.
It's a lot of pressure. Like now, unfortunately, I have a wonderful and supportive wife. She's always just, you can't do that. You can't walk across the street until the hand is white, because if you get hit, I'm going to have to explain to everybody how my safety husband can do something safe. I've never had so much pressure to be safe. You got to live up to what people are expecting out of me now.
You say you had people coming up and telling you things. Did you have people tell you things where, safety issues happened that actually brought them up short and said, I really need to do something about my safety? Because I'm thinking here about the story that Simon Lehman told on LinkedIn recently, and I'll put a link to that article that he wrote into the show notes. But long story short, he was at an Airbnb in London and was woken up in the middle of the night by a scream from his young son. And when they went into his room, they found that he's lying in the bed, covered in glass from a fallen picture frame. And the frame had come off the wall, come down, the glass had broken, and this child is covered in glass. Must have been the most terrifying situation. But how many people would do that, would actually go into a place and just look at a picture on a wall and say, all right, I really need to check that is secure?
That story, it was horrific. And I've communicated directly with Simon about additional details that he didn't necessarily make public, but it scared him straight. That's enough. And for someone in Simon's position, full disclosure, he's on the board at Breezeway, but for him in his position as a leader in our industry to realize that we can't keep operating like this. That doesn't happen in hotels. Pictures don't fall off the walls in hotels because they've gone to that extra step. The general public is there. And I've heard so many different things come out, people relating with this. I can't believe how many people I've heard from that said that's happened to me or to somebody else. And a lot of times in properties, if you want to narrow in on that, thinking that maybe this is like a small niche of safety, hanging art or hanging things on walls. It's not. A lot of people don't think about the fact that when these guests are in the properties, they're brushing up against paintings, they're knocking mirrors off the wall. And unfortunately, when they rehang them, now that hole's a little bit bigger. And in some cases, we've seen where they're like hanging it with a different fastener that's not strong enough. And then it's just hitting back there, ready to come after somebody, just like it did Simon's son. And so it's happened a lot. I talked to Nick at Proper Insurance. They've seen claims for these type of things, but it just opens up that world. And that was the other part of the discussion. A lot of people are saying is, if it's a picture frame, what else could happen? One of my famous safety videos I did in Acamil, Mexico, I was actually filming the video. Someone hadn't attached a fire extinguisher very well to the wall, and it actually fell and cut my hand live on video while I was talking about the importance of placement of them. So we've got to pay really close attention to every single detail. I love, there's a quote that I used to see all the time, says, attention to detail drives everything we do. There you go. There's a motto for some company out there. That should be what your motto is.
Yeah, I just want to come in on that about the picture falling from the wall. When we were in Banff for the Canadian conference last year, Mike and I were staying in a condo in Canmore, and exactly the same thing happened. We weren't in the condo. We came in from the day out at the conference, and a picture that had been hanging on the wall over a chair that I'd been sitting in had fallen down, and it was actually fallen over the chair. Yeah. Now, fortunately, it was a canvas. It was one of those canvas wrapped pictures, so there was no glass involved. But still, that would have been quite the shock if I'd been sitting there and that had come down and hit me on the head. Incidentally, the host then proceeded to make a claim against us on our damage deposit.
We could do a couple podcasts on that. I'm always shocked. I see it in Facebook all the time. So many hosts are saying, my guest broke my shower door and glass is everywhere. I'm going to file a claim, and they're terrible guests. No, you don't understand. So many glass doors are not installed properly by contractors using quick things. That's why they're shattering. I just saw one that shattered, and it's because the way the host installed a door stopper, it was basically like a nail point. So if you opened the door too far, it was going to shatter the glass. So there's a lot of these things. And one of the things that people don't take into account enough is a 20-pound picture frame falling off the wall falls with the force of thousands of pounds. It's not 20 pounds falling on you. As gravity grabs it and starts pulling it, that gets into some trigonometry here that was above my advancements in math. But I know for a fact, just from studies and different things we talk about with furniture tip overs, a 50-pound TV weighs 27,000 pounds when it hits off of a dresser. So there's a lot of weight behind these too. We need to think about that.
Yeah, and I remember Mike, in fact, when he was 3 or 4 years old, pulling out a bottom drawer on a dresser to stand on it to get something that was on the top of the dresser. I was there. And the dresser did begin to tip away from the wall. And I was able to rescue him and shut the drawer. And then that was the point when we thought, oh, we really should attach these dressers to the wall. So if that should happen, it's not going to fall over and crush a child. And I know this has happened.
Oh, it's huge. It's one of the, right now, it's the number one cause of pediatric injury for children, things falling. And one of the things we don't know, and I haven't found out from Simon what that artwork was, but one of the things we do know is guests, the general public coming into your home, they sometimes don't like your artwork. You never know, but this is why this issue happens. As a property manager, and I bet you experienced this too. I remember coming to properties and the cleaners calling and saying, it's really odd, all the artwork's off the wall, it's in a closet. And you call the guest and it's like, why did you take the artwork down? And they're like, you know what? These pictures reminded me of my Alzheimer's mother was with us, and it reminded her of her child at home. So we had to take them down, and we didn't want to put them back wrong. So we left them there. It's things like that. You don't even know. There's a clown in there. And my wife is scared of clowns. We took down the clown picture. So you just assume that what you're posting in your properties is something that you like it. But that's where these issues are coming from. Is people sometimes just while they're on vacation, something might remind them of something they don't want, they don't like. So they're taking it down and sometimes they're putting it back. And then it's putting more weight on those hooks. They get loose.
So is this in the checklist now has it always been there, or is it?
I kind of loosely had it under furniture tip overs. We had to add that. I've added a bunch recently just because of issues this summer. We just enhanced the lithium battery section of our course. There's been a number of fires from guests bringing lithium battery powered devices to their properties. There was one just down in Destin. DRMA president Jody Rafosco, they had a lithium battery fire at a property across the street from them that was an STR recently. We're seeing a lot of those. We've enhanced the course for that. We've been talking about a lot related to signage this summer because of a lot of issues coming up there. So every time there's something new, we add it in and to make sure that we learn from those. And that's what the FAA does with airline crashes. It's what the NTSB does with boat and vehicle crashes. And at Breezeway, we're always trying to update, make sure people understand where these risks are.
Yeah, there was something that we encouraged owners to do, and we tried to do it in many of our managed properties, and that because they were all waterfront.
Yes.
And a lot of accidents happen down at the waterfront. Kid will just go into the water and they found a broken bottle just drifted down. They step on it. You've got the child that is screaming at the waterfront, and somebody says, okay, we've got to call 911. What's the address?
Yeah.
They don't know where they are. They have no clue where they are or what that 911 number is. If that address is on a tree or on a post, it's just so simple, but so many don't do it.
They don't. And it's so crazy how many people don't realize that the guests have no idea where they are. They don't know where the Osprey's Nest cottage is when you call 911. It's reminding me, one of the people who came up to me at the STR Wealth Conference showed me all these pictures. They put in a 5x7 note card. It looked really nice. And they went to Staples and bought these little $1.50 frames. And they're by every bed in their property, letting people know. So no matter what bedroom you were in, you could conveniently call 911 and say, this is where we are. So I was impressed by that. But the other thing, and this is something else I saw at the conference a lot, I think it's important to take a pause here because you and I are talking about a lot of things that happen bad. You and I both love this industry, and I say this all the time. Safety shouldn't be something you're scared of. Oh my gosh, I got to go take all my pictures down and make sure they have bigger hooks. And what did you say about lithium batteries? Safety is the one thing that you can address in your property and actually achieve and make sure that everything's good. It's the one thing you can maintain to. You can't ever have the right mattress. Guests are never going to be happy. They're never going to have the best view. They're never going to have the right TV channel package, and the Wi-Fi is never going to be fast enough. But the one thing you can do, which is what we humans want to do, we want to hit a goal, is you can make your property so that it's safe. And if you're doing these routine checkups and checking your hooks every 6 months, taking a look, doing these things, you're going to be all right. So don't run away right now and go, oh my gosh, this is enough.
Let's switch it over then to the guests.
Yes.
How can we educate them? And that sort of came to me today because you'd posted this morning about the people coming down the chute on an aircraft that had a tire fire on landing. And I'm laughing, but it's not a laughing thing. They were coming down. They've obviously come to a halt. There's smoke everywhere. They've been told they have to evacuate via the chute. And then there's people coming down with their carry-ons.
Yeah.
And we're educated that when something like this happens, you leave without anything. Yeah. But this message is not getting out. So I'm just wondering how it gets across to guests.
You're probably someone who's seen this more than I have. You're from the UK, you live in Canada, and you spend the winters in the US. So you've seen a lot of different things when it comes to society and a focus on safety. The UK has a very strong focus on safety. They introduced us to safety chevrons on the back of fire trucks and ambulances and police cars. And when you go to the UK, they wear full bodysuit safety gear when they're doing traffic management and control. They have a lot less incidents than we do. In Canada, even in the fire departments, your son being a firefighter, you don't hear about a lot of Canadian firefighters being the top chili cook-off guys. They're focused on offense all the time, not defense. And in the US, our society has made a decision, for whatever reason at some point, no one's pushed a change, that safety isn't really important to us. And I talk about a lot lately how at a school level, we've decided that the only thing we want to teach children is about how to get out of a school where the alarm sounds. And here's a 15-minute little thing, take home to your parents and make sure you practice an emergency exit drill. And that's it. That is what our society has done. And so as a result of it, the example you're talking about this morning, people don't understand that you've got to put your safety first when you're going out of an aircraft. Forget the bags. And when you grab, just because you think, I'm okay, I can grab my bag, now the next person behind you thinks they can, and the next person. So that aircraft this morning, it took twice as long to evacuate half the amount of people as it did that plane in Japan last year that caught on fire, and everybody got out. If that plane, the one in Japan that crashed into the Coast Guard jet last year, they said if that had been in the U.S., everyone would have died. And that's because Japan has put that there as a society. So we've been teaching our society here in the U.S. that we react, and we see that over and over again. And so as a manager, you've got to go in and educate your guests that you don't react, that you're on the top page of this. You're not showing up on that Air DNA list as one of the operators that has the most safety complaints in their guest reviews. You're not on that list. You're the company that people want to come stay with because you've educated your guests that you care about safety. You're doing these safety things and you're making sure everything's okay.
I've been looking at a lot of websites recently and just working with some companies on their websites and what they should have on them. And the ones I love is where they have a page that is on safety and how they keep their guests safe. Yeah. You've come across Justine Ireland for Just For You holidays in UK?
Yes.
Yes. She has a page on her site about safety. We talked to Justine in the Stir Crazy month back in February, because she covers safety and sustainability. She covers everything.
Yeah.
She's got all those T's crossed and I's dotted in terms of responsibilities as an owner and a manager. But what she's actually doing is educating guests. So when they're coming to the site, they're seeing, oh my gosh, these people are safe. And this is what they are doing to keep me safe. So it is, and I think in doing that, it brings safety to the minds of the guests. They're thinking about their own safety and their family's safety rather than being reactive when they get to a place and they find out that actually it's not that safe.
You and I were both with Sabella Kim in Vermont at the Vermont Short-Term Rental Alliance this past fall. She uses the word safe in her marketing for her Airbnb listing. Organically, she's number one in the world. And this is a cool thing that a lot of people don't think about. She's learned that not only making your property safe has been a great marketing tool. She's very well booked all the time. I've been to her property. She can back that up, that she's committed to safety. But one of the things we've learned that we never thought about was the type of guest she's getting. Think about this. A guest who cares about safety is going to come in and take better care of your property than someone who doesn't. Guests who are educated, understand, and you're making sure you're saying, hey, we care about safety. This is things we do. We're not overboard. This isn't a rubber room, but we've got good smoke alarms. We've got good egress. You're going to be okay. You've just educated them. They're happy to stay there. They've taken care of your property, and then they go stay with somebody else and they don't see that. They're continuing to pass that education forward. So I think that's how we're going to keep moving the needle, is by educating guests when they stay with us that we care about them.
Yeah, it's just educating by example, really, isn't it? And that is simple. And if it's just adding another page on your website and just talking about how we keep you safe, then, as you say, Sibylla has got it. She's using safety as a marketing tool as well. It just seems a no-brainer to me. But most of these websites that I'm looking at, they've got nothing.
The worst part of it still is it's always the people that have had an incident that now suddenly are reacting. I get a lot of those calls lately too. Hey, Justin, yeah, I've heard you on Heather Bear's podcast and it's great. But anyway, we just had an incident and what do we do now? And I always tell people I don't do after. I'm the before guy. I'm trying to set you up, but you don't want to be that. And trust me, I get a lot of those calls and it's not the way to operate in this industry. You've got to work ahead of it.
Let's talk about the safety expert, becoming a safety expert. Can anyone do this?
Anyone can do this. And to be honest with you, it should be fun. I said this before, but that's what we want to, when we start doing a crossword puzzle, Heather, what do we want to do? We want to finish it. No one Leg stops. You go nuts until you get done. The human drive is to complete a task. And safety is that thing that you can do. And I think that's one of the things that I hear over and over from people. So take the safety course. It's easy to take the Breezeway safety course. My boss has told me that we want to make whatever we got to do to get everybody in the industry taking this safety course, do it. So if you're in a position where you're not a Breezeway customer or a member of Verma, VR Nation, a lot of the different organizations who we allow free access to through their membership, and you're down and out and you can't come up with the few $100 for the safety course, send me a message. We got some scholarships. We'll get you through there. There's no reason that everybody in this industry should not be taking this short course, 6 hours, time commitment, and getting safety certified so that you can get out there and do this.
We had an incident here in my house, in the room next door to me, maybe a month ago. I woke up in the morning and I smelt something burning. Oh. So my bedroom is above the maintenance room where the furnace is and everything. And I came downstairs and I just turned the air conditioning on. I came downstairs and I went into the maintenance room, and the smoke on the ceiling. I did things I probably wouldn't have done before I'd done the safety course. At least and I think it must have been just knowing more about safety. I knew I'd turn the power off immediately, get the power off because it was an electrical smell. I didn't panic.
Yes.
I did not panic. I smell this, the smoke, there's something burning here. Get that electricity off. And then we don't have a smoke alarm in the maintenance room. And I asked Mike about that. I said, why do we not have one here? So
Heather, what's your address? I'm sending you one today.
He said, you actually don't have to in Canadian code. And I said, well, that's ridiculous.
I know.
Why do we not? That's where all the stuff is. What it actually was the water heater. We called the fire department. Even though the smoke stopped the moment I turned the power off, it all began to dissipate. And I called my son, firefighter. What do I do? And he said, probably a good idea to call the fire department. And they came out and spent 15 minutes or so. And then somebody said, run the hot water, turn the power on, run the hot water, which I did. And there was all sorts of sparking inside of the water heater.
The elements had burned out.
Yeah. It just took the panel off the front, and all the stuff on the front was all charred and burnt. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't going to burn my house down. And I thought about you because A, I did not panic. B, I knew just get the power turned off. We had a fire extinguisher in the basement. I didn't have to use it because I didn't even know where the fire was. But these things were there, and it did come to mind. And I thought, what would Justin do?
That's right. I like that. It's probably the most incredible thing about what I get to do, and I'm fortunate and blessed to be in the position I'm in, is when people call me and tell me that they did something I said and it saved a life. At last count, I think I'm at 32 this year, where I know that somebody's let me know something that they did. They installed carbon monoxide alarms a week before 6 guests checked in. And oh my gosh, the boiler backed up and they all went off. If they hadn't been there, people would have perished. So it's incredible to continue to hear that and know that people are thinking about it. But going back to something you said there real quick, it's been a mission of mine. I've got so many missions. Now we got picture hooks we got to think about. But the utility areas, we see so many fires from utility areas and garages. They're bringing stuff in. And Mike said, code doesn't require heat alarms, which is what should be in a garage or a mechanical area. And in this past year, a really awesome new product has just come out, and it is actually a flame detector. They're on Amazon for just around $100. I'd love to see those in all those spaces too, because they'll detect through infrared a flame, and you get a notification. If you're getting a notification, there's an open flame in your garage. Trust me, that's where you just call. You don't even call the guest. But we're even seeing instances. I've had a couple of people use it where they found that kids are playing with matches by putting it in the kids' room. So the tech is really starting to get up there to help support us with some of these off-random things that are happening out there.
That is amazing. So as we're coming to a close here, people who are listening to you, they always go, what should I do? What should I do first? What can I do that's quick and maybe something I can do today, but potentially life-saving?
That's exactly it. It's one thing that if a guest is going to trip and fall and you got to move this carpet, but you haven't got to it yet, or there's a piece of landscaping stone in the walkway. Yeah, you got to get to that. But no one should die. That's the worst thing. And we see that over and over where people are like, I went on vacation. This is with my family. And it really escalates what is already a horrific tragedy that it's the worst time to do it. So make sure that's not going to happen. Make sure your smoke alarms are all working. Test them. It's easy to do that. Guests do pull the batteries. They've got new smoke alarms that are out there. We've been talking a lot about the new UL 217 Chapter 8 smoke alarms. You're seeing them in all the hardware stores appearing right now. And make sure you got carbon monoxide alarms and make sure your egress is good. It's been a hot summer. I've seen a lot. When I was just in Nashville, I went out and about. Someone actually, one of the people staying there showed me their Airbnb. All the egress windows were blocked because they'd put air conditioners in them. If there was fire, your guests can't take this massive air conditioner and dark, thick smoke and shove it out the window. They shouldn't have been there. So this is that midsummer check-in that maybe it quickly jumped and threw an air conditioner in a window to attend to a quick issue, but now you got to move it because unless they've got good egress to the exterior of the property, they're not going to go. So make sure you've just covered those few things that at least nobody's going to tighten the pool gate latches so the kids can't get out to the pools when they shouldn't. Check those pool alarms. That's where we're seeing the worst of the incidents in the industry.
What about fire blankets in kitchens?
This is always a surprise to people. In the United States, I don't want to see fire blankets in short-term rentals because if it's that kind of a fire, I don't want the guests messing around with it. Most people in the United States are not educated on how to use a fire blanket. I either want them to use the fire extinguisher or I want them to get out of the property. And so we've seen some incidents where people have tried to use a fire blanket. This is how screwy it goes. They actually think they have to wear it. I was with the head of trust and safety for a VRBO not long ago, and they had a guest complaint at Verbo where the guest said there was only one fire blanket, but there was 8 of us and we were cold. So that's not what a fire blanket is for. That just shows the education. Yeah. If you have a bunch of people from the UK coming to stay at your property and that's what all you're getting is people from the UK or from New Zealand, put a fire blanket in. They know how to use it, but Americans don't. And it's not in code. Code doesn't mention the word fire blanket, but they do fire extinguishers. So put an emphasis on that.
And finally, fire extinguishers, checking them. What do you do with checking? And I know we talk about this every time we meet. We talk about fire extinguishers. Now, I know this. I have this firefighter son who comes to my house and checks my fire extinguisher.
Your son is amazing. He's my favorite safety educator.
So what do you do with the fire extinguisher? Because they can sit there for years, can't they?
Yeah, you got to do the turnover checklist. I was at an Airbnb recently and I went in and the fire extinguisher was still in the box under the sink. I don't think people realize that it takes about 14 seconds to take a fire extinguisher out of a box. And that's me who knows how to do it. It can take a while. You got to get it out. And then the pin and the package is in there and the mounting brackets with the screws that you never did anything. It's still in the box. So you've got to have that out there. But then I pulled this one out and the gauge was on empty. It had been used at some point. I can't tell you how many times I go to short-term rentals and they're so proud. We've heard you and we've got the fire extinguisher out. I'm like, that's great. Looks like a guest already used it. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you got to check it. The cleaner needs to go by and look. They use it and then they don't want to tell you that they used it because they're embarrassed. They used it on the grill. They used it on the fire pit, whatever they did. And then they just hung it back up and went, oops, we better get out of here before these guys yell at us. So check the gauges on them, check and follow the procedures you're supposed to.
There is so much more. We could just, when we do this every time we chat.
Talk days and days about safety. There's so many fun little things to talk about with this. And that's the approach you've got to have, is that we've got to make sure everything's all set in our properties. Because again, and I've shared this on your podcast before, I just want to emphasize it again. We already have enough trouble dealing with that vacation brain. And with people that are coming in to our properties, the general public, that's hard. But they're drinking. 3/4 of your guests are going to get intoxicated. So it really puts us way behind the bar. So you got to do that extra work to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, that is such an important point. And it's something I remember so well from working with guests, working with owners for so many years, that vacation brain it just gets into place from the moment they arrive. And certainly in the first 12 hours,
Yeah.
Before they get accustomed to a place, that is when the accidents happen because they're just not accustomed to that place. They walk into a hotel room, it's all on one level.
Yeah.
And that's it. There aren't steps up and steps down and weird and quirky little things that they have to do. So yeah, I'm getting into the next thing, which would be vacation brain in the first 12 hours. But you're absolutely right. You've just got to be on top of it all the time.
I had somebody come up to me. I'll just close out with this. I had somebody come up to me at the STR Wealth Conference and ask me this. And then for some reason, it just kept coming. I must have been asked this 10 or 15 times. I've listened to you. I've done a lot of different things to make my property safe. But can you come there? How can I know that I've done that? And so my advice was the same to all of them. Find someone who's never been to your property before. Give them a suitcase and invite them over in the evening. Have them come into your house and just watch them. Don't say, don't do this, don't do that. It is mind-blowing because you've been going to your property in the daytime, or your properties, if you're a manager, during the daytime, and you're not dragging a suitcase with you and looking at your cell phone. But as soon as you see somebody do that, all these different issues are going to come to mind. That's one of the best things that you can do to learn and understand how to make sure your property is set up safely.
Justin, I speak for thousands, if not millions of people when I thank you for all you do in this industry. You've saved lives, which is the most amazing feat, and saved many of them with everything you share. So thank you as ever for taking the time to spend an hour with me.
You as well. I always loved everything you're doing for the industry, and just by letting me share and talk about this, you're doing the same thing as I am. So thank you.
It won't be the last time. Until next time, have a great time in Scotland.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. Always an absolute pleasure. And, people used to say, oh, God, safety's so boring. Justin does not make safety boring. He is so enthusiastic and motivational, inspirational about it, that if you're sort of on the fence about making safety first, then you should listen to him more. He really is inspiring. He's inspired me to make so many changes. And if I was still running my property management company, I would be doing a lot more than we actually did those years ago in making our properties safe, and also educating guests, educating owners, educating anybody that comes along on how important safety is in this business. So I hope you learned a lot from that. I always do. And sad that incidents have to happen that make changes in the way we do things. But the incident that Simon Lehman had with the picture and the picture frame, that was never something I really looked at when I was going around properties, and certainly, didn't task our housekeepers just to have a quick check of the picture hangings, particularly those that were hanging over beds or hanging over chairs. Just do a check on changeover and make sure that they are secure, because you just do not know what might happen in an instant. So thank you. Thank you so much for being with me once again, for having me in your ear, whatever you're doing, whether you're gardening or hiking or in the car or doing a changeover. It's my pleasure to be with you, and it'll be my pleasure to be with you next time. It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.